Welcome to the Love on the Go podcast, brought to you by Carolina's Matchmaker. I'm Laurie Burzak, and for over 17 years, I've been helping singles find the relationship of their dreams all over the Carolinas. Along the journey, I've met so many amazing professionals and experts from various fields, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. What's my goal? I want to help you look at love and relationships in a new way and to grow in your understanding of how love works. Let's learn together how people have overcome personal obstacles and have found love, first and foremost with themselves. The ultimate goal is realizing that you are worthy and deserving of love. Let's get started. In this episode, I'm speaking with the man that wakes you up on your TV every morning, WBTV's John Carter. After graduating from Appalachian State, he started his TV career at WBTV and slowly worked his way up the ladder. He left for a little bit to start his own video production company and even a very successful comic book shop. He also dabbled in politics as a North Carolina state senator for the 25th district. But his calling in television was strong, and he went back to WBTV, where you can see him every morning on the WBTV News Morning Show and the WBTV News at noon. John Carter, it is so good to see you and hear you today.
And you too, Laurie.
Thank you for joining us on Love on the Go podcast. For those of you who have not heard of John Carter, and I can't imagine who that would be, if perhaps if you live outside of North Carolina. John, you have had such an interesting, varied past and really fascinating journey professionally. I know you're working currently at WBTV. Tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing.
Well, I anchor the morning newscast from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock a.m. And then I also co-anchor the morning newscast, and I co-anchor the noon newscast. And while Mary King, my normal co-anchor, is out on maternity leave, I'm taking her place on the QC morning show that airs from 9 to 10 on WBTV. So you can certainly get your fill of me during the day if you choose to. I don't know if I could take, let's see, that's 2, 3, 4 hours. That might be a little too much. I don't know. But that's what I do. And I've been doing the morning news for the last 26 years.
So obviously, as a professional matchmaker, I want to hear a little bit about your first marriage. And obviously that didn't pan out in terms of a forever match. And then you did find your forever match recently. Well, you found her a while ago, but you recently did get married.
Yes.
But, you know, when people get married for the first time, they're in a little bit of a bubble. They're in love. Their family and friends come to the wedding. Everyone's happy. There's usually a honeymoon and a honeymoon phase. And they think that nothing will ever disrupt that love. And then kids come along. And people have stress at jobs, and they have friends and family that are sort of tugging on them to do other things, and people get distracted. That core connection is unravels, and then other things come down the line. And what I think would be interesting to hear is any advice that you can give that would perhaps help people to avoid divorce. You know, how do you stay together? How could you possibly stay together as a couple? How do you prevent that situation where people go their separate ways, where they're no longer aligned in their journey in love together?
Well, if I knew the real answer to that, Laurie, we would never have any divorce whatsoever. But from my experience, I'll tell you what I found and what I think was, and let me say that when I first got married, I take a lot of responsibility for what happened and what led to the dissolution of the marriage. So I take a lot of responsibility for that because I was not ready to get married, I don't believe. And I think that created a lot of issues right there that I wasn't. I felt pressure to get married from a lot of different outside sources. And we had been dating. We had dated in high school, and we had dated in college. And I think my thought was, well, you've been dating this long, we need to get married. And of course you feel love for someone else too. And you think all that's going to work out. What I found to be the greatest issue, and especially on my part, was communication. Was not communicating clearly before you get married and after, because if a lot of times I didn't say things that I wish I had said if I wasn't comfortable with something, or if I didn't like something, because as Jackie will tell you, I'm a people pleaser, and I want to please folks, and I enjoy doing that. But at the same time, what happens is sometimes you lose yourself a little bit. You're trying so hard to please others. You do things that you wouldn't normally do, or you don't feel comfortable with. And over the course of time, that grows and grows and grows. And so when you're trying to do for others and not looking out after yourself as well, there's nothing wrong with self-care, taking care of yourself at the same time. And so I think what happened is I didn't understand that at the time. And I didn't communicate well at all. I was here. I am in the communications business, exactly. But I did not communicate those things well, and I didn't communicate my wants and my needs because I was so concerned about trying to meet the needs of others, and that caused a growing apart, I think, and so it was just tough. I was not. Nothing against who I was married to. She's a wonderful person. There's no question about that. I was not ready, and I probably should have waited, but I did not. That's on me. And before we were married, and once we were married, I didn't communicate well. And I'm going to say this and I mean this I don't mean this in a devious, not honest way. I wasn't honest. I didn't tell her. I didn't say things how I really felt about things. I didn't express myself in an honest way. And I think that really, I didn't want to nobody likes confrontation.
Right.
And I didn't want to get into confrontations. And Jackie, with whom I'm married to now and just love, she has really helped me learn how to express myself and to be very open and honest about things. And even though that may cause some friction, which it does, because you may not agree with everything that everyone believes in or says or whatever, if you can talk it out, when you can sit there and try to just talk it out in a calm, rational manner, as opposed to getting very emotional about it and excited about it and activated about it, if you can do that, it really helps. And, you may not always agree with the other person, but if you try to look at their point and all, and there's nothing wrong with a little button heads in any kind of relationship. Even here at work, we don't always get along 100%. We disagree on things, but we work it out. And that's what hurt me in that first marriage, is that I never felt comfortable being open and honest. And that's all on me, not on her, because I think she would have been very open to that. But because of the way I was raised and how I came up, we just didn't do that. I will say this, and, I love my mom and dad wonderfully. They're wonderful, wonderful people. They've both since passed. I never once heard my mom and dad argue, ever.
Oh, wow.
Ever. Never. So I did not grow up in an atmosphere of seeing a marriage where there was any kind of conflict that caused us to, we need to work this out kind of thing. I grew up in an age when my dad was the dominant person in the relationship, and it was basically my dad's way or the highway. And my mom, who was a wonderful, wonderful mother, a wonderful person, who was a great companion and a great wife for my dad, she did not express herself maybe as much as she could have. My dad probably didn't express himself as much as he could in a way, but it was that era
Yes.
when, the man was very dominant in the relationship. So,
Yes.
and Jackie and I have talked about, I think you and I may have talked about this at one point too, several years ago, because you and I have known each other for quite a while.
Absolutely.
And I have learned so much about relationships from you and doing the stories that I have. And I think communication is one of the most important things. But again, when you don't see your parents resolving conflict with each other, where do you get that from? And,
That's right.
and I think it's important. I mean, you don't want to be arguing and yelling and screaming in front of your kids, of course, all the time. But I think it's good if children can see their parents with a conflict between themselves that they are able to resolve, and to see how they do it, and to see that love transcends these disagreements maybe, and that when you really do love someone, you see beyond these conflicts that you have. So I think that was the big thing too, was not ever seeing how conflict was resolved within a marriage, because of my mom and dad, and they do give you a template for how a marriage should be. That, and my lack of communication, and my wanting to please everyone all the time, and not thinking of myself and how I should express myself, and not wanting confrontation, all those things combined led to that coming apart of that marriage.
So the takeaway is, if you're having some kind of conflict, to just talk about it in your marriage and get through it at the time. Don't push it away or push it under the rug. You want to bring it up then and there, or wait a little while when you're not enraged or whatnot, and talk it through. The hardest part is bringing up conflict in a marriage. And and according to psychologist Terry Orbach, who I'll be interviewing on this show in a few weeks, unmet expectations is the number one reason that couples divorce. Yeah, unmet expectations.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. The thing is, when you become emotional, and like I said, Jackie is a licensed marriage and family therapist, so she's explained some of these things. And when I understand these things, it really helps in a relationship. When you're emotional, you're not thinking rationally. That's what happens with a lot of situations where a father might strike a child, out of anger. You hear about that, those types of things happening, or someone lashes out at someone else. It's even in politics, whether you're on one side, blue side, or the red side, or the whatever. When these people are getting emotional about things, you can't sit down there and reason with them. You could say, hey, the sun is shining today. And if they're emotionally activated, they go, no, it's not shining. I don't think it's shining. And until you can get past the emotional activation with things and just sit there and say, hey, let's talk about this calmly. This isn't about making you mad or not making you mad, and you control your own emotions. I don't make you mad. You allow yourself to get mad. So think about it. And it can be very tough. Don't get me wrong. It's not that all of a sudden, this is all unicorns and rainbows and things like that. It takes work. And I think that's the other thing I neglected in my first marriage, was the work that it takes. I just thought, everything will be just fine. We're married, we're in love, and everything will work itself out. Well, you don't take into the fact about paying bills, about taking care of the children, the animals, your work taking you away, where you want to go on vacation, this, that, and the other thing. So, all those things just combine, and they can be overwhelming if you don't work at it. So that's the thing. And when you say work, you go, I don't like work, it's so tough or whatever. If you really love someone, I think you're willing to do what it takes to make sure that everything works as well as it possibly can. So when I say work, I don't mean work in the sense of it's a 9-to-5 job, and then after 5 o'clock, you all have a beer and everything's okay kind of thing.
Right.
It's looking out after the needs of others, looking out after yourself too. Self-care is very important, but trying to understand that other person, and understanding too that there will be some bumps in the road along the way. I don't know that anybody agrees with the other person all the time. I sometimes think of my relationship with my brother, who has, been my best friend like forever, and he and I get along, but we have arguments at times and we get upset. but we resolve that because we love one another. It's not the same thing. You know, Jackie is truly my best friend. She's my best friend. She's a person I can talk to and say anything to that I want. And I like that feeling. And beforehand, I didn't have that feeling that I could say anything I want. With Jackie, I feel safe. And that's the other thing you've talked about, Laurie, too, is that people have to feel safe. I have to, if I don't feel safe with you, I can't tell you everything. If you go off the rockets, or if you get upset when I say something to you in a calm manner, I'm not going to feel safe telling you things down the road. And that builds up over time. And so I sort of look at it that way, that you've got to be willing to work at it. You've got to communicate. You've got to feel safe with that other person. If you don't feel safe, I think that's going to lead to cracks in the relationship. And when those cracks appear, those other things start pouring in there, the lack of the work, the lack of communication, the lack of the understanding, and it's going to just further create a division there. There you go.
Very, very well said and explained. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think it's important when people sit down to have to set a time and say, let's sit down and just talk about this topic. I'd like to speak first. If you don't mind, please don't interrupt me. And then I'll give you a chance to speak and I won't interrupt you, and just kind of see what goes on. And let's set some ground rules. There's going to be no cursing at each other. Neither of us are going to get up and walk out of the room. You know, I need you to be kind to me. Whatever it is that, you know, may have happened in the past, kind of put that right out there, and then just have like a real conversation about whatever it is, about the kids, about the money, about the house, whatever it is, and just try to get through. Just say, my goal for this conversation is to get through this and get to the other side, because I don't want this to be a conflict anymore. I love you. You know, that's the whole idea. And if you can actually get to those conversations, which are so hard, then that's how you get through it. The minutia of the day-to-day conversations, connection, and just real talk is how you get through a marriage. In my opinion, that's been my experience. And, you know, there are years where I didn't share a lot about what was going on in my internal dialogue because I was scared. And, you know, that comes from lots of things that have happened in my past. And fear will block you from getting to what those real conversations. So you described that beautifully. Thank you, John. Now let's talk let's talk about your new wife, Jackie. How did you know she was the one?
I've always said this, you just know. I call it the I know factor. I know. We met actually about 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago. I was working for the county at the time. She was working for the county. I was over the video production for the county. And she had to do a video for the section she was working for. And that's how we first met. And I remember when I first met her, I had some strong feelings about her in that I didn't know that I was going to enjoy working with her. So that's how that was. And I was married at the time. She was married at the time. So, you know, it was very business-like relationship.
Sure.
But as we got into this project and I got to know her better, I thought she was I thought she was a terrific person. And we did get along together and we got this video made. It was over the course of many, many weeks. So we sort of got to know each other better. And just, you know, I thought the world of her, like I thought the world of like you would if you meet somebody and you just get along with them like you do. But she moved on with her life. I moved on with mine. She moved out of Charlotte, this area here. She eventually wound up moving out of state. And I didn't hear from her for the longest time. But then I was out of my marriage and on my own, and Facebook. I don't know I'm not sure exactly how, but we just actually happened to somehow reconnect on Facebook. And when we did, she was no longer in her marriage. And just through that, It's hard to say. I think this,
Mm-hmm.
Laurie, and I want to hear your opinion on it, because I talked to Jackie about this too.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize what you do is very professional. You've
Mm-hmm.
done a lot of study and book work. Jackie's done a lot of study and book work on relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what there is. And you can predict a lot of things based
Mm-hmm.
on what you've read and all like that. But I believe this. I believe there is that magic, though, that can exist in a relationship that can't be explained. Why is it that there is a core thing about a relationship that it's going to work and you can't explain it? And that's what I feel with Jackie, is that I can explain a lot of why I get along with her and why I love her so much. Part of it is I love her sense of humor. My God, the woman is just, she has this sense of humor that is so dry and so witty that it's, and I love that. I love that about her. She's smart. She's intelligent. She's caring. She loves children. She works with people. She's empathetic. All these great things. But you know what? You can meet a lot of people who have a lot of those qualities. So what is it that differentiates her from, say, others that you might meet? And I say it's that little bit of magic that exists. And I could be wrong. I don't know. But that's sort of how I look about it, is we have so many of these wonderful things that happen, but there's something there that makes it special that you just can't put your finger on. And I try every day. I think to myself, oh man, I just think so much of this. What is it that makes we just click so well together? And you could go. I could find you somebody who's empathetic with others, who works well with people, and you put us together, and there'd be nothing there. But for some reason, so what is that, Laurie? Why do we? Is there something that is just you just can't explain some things?
It's a soul connection.
Yeah. That's what it is.
It's a spiritual soul connection, and it's happened to me before with men and women. Sometimes I'll meet a woman and be like, "Okay, where have you been my whole life? I need to catch you up now on everything." It's this like knowing. I have chills when I talk about it. It's happened to me several times with women, and with my husband, I just had this little voice in my head that was like, "That's the one." And I can't explain it. It's just what happened. And I think that we need to pay attention to those little voices and the whisperings, because there's a deeper energetic level to our connections to people. I do believe in soulmates. Some people say that doesn't exist, but I do believe those kind of whisperings in your ear. And it's not just opposite sex soulmates or same sex soulmates, depending. I'm not talking about heterosexual or homosexual connection. I'm talking about soulmates. I'm talking about when you get a whispering in your ear, this is somebody who I know. Okay. I know this person, and you want to catch them up on your life, and you want to connect with them deeply. And we don't have that many of those people in our lives. And when they do come along, and what's always exciting to think is who else is out there that I haven't met yet, that I still will come across in my lifetime. So just lots of good things coming down the pike. And, you have to pay attention. And you need to be very present in order to recognize it.
I agree with you. And I mean this in the best way too. I think there are maybe a lot of people out in this world that if you meet them, you will have that incredible connection. The thing is, you may never meet them, though. That there is somebody out there for everyone. I believe there may be more than one person for everyone.
Absolutely.
I don't know, but you may never meet them. I'm fortunate. I met this wonderful, incredible person who I feel this soulful connection to, but who challenges me every day. Who wants to work at a relationship, is very expressive. Let me tell you something. She never hesitates to express herself and how she feels about something. She wants me to do the same, and she invites me to do that, and I feel very safe. And I want her to feel safe, because there are issues out there that we do not agree on at all, but we talk about them in a calm and a reasonable manner. But she always assures me, says, I love you, and nothing can break that bond. And so when you feel that security with someone else, especially if you have that I know factor and that soulmate factor, that makes for an incredible relationship. And, there's a certain, I think too, I don't mean this in a sexual way. I'm going to say this though too. I think a physical connection can be very important. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I think there are people who are together and their physical attraction to one another doesn't have any impact on it. But I'm not talking in a sexual manner. I mean, there's just a physical something that happens too, that when you hold that person or hug that person, you just feel like this, you just know this is the right one, that this really works there. So when you have that emotional connection, that spiritual connection, that physical connection, and all those, and that's how Jackie is. It's just hitting on all these cylinders more so than anything I've ever experienced before in the past. So that's what makes this work as well as it does. And I have learned so much from her. She's taught me so much. I don't know how she puts up with me sometimes, because I can be kind of crazy. But what you were saying there, I believe that there's a soulful something out there that you are not going to be able to explain scientifically. You can go to Freud, or you can go to Dr. Phil or whoever, and they can't pinpoint exactly what it is. And I think that's what makes life so wonderful, so incredible. And I like to think I'm a strong Christian, and I believe God has His hand in things too. And you don't have to believe that way. No one has to, but it works for Jackie and me. And so if I feel that spiritual thing, there are probably people out there who are atheists or who are of different religions, and they feel as strong about their mate, their soulmate, as I do Jackie. And so I don't discount anyone else who's, but for me, for Jackie and me, that spiritual connection is as important as any of the others too. So all those things that are important to me and important to her, I think, work together well. So take that for what it is,
I love that. And anyone of any faith and belief in higher power, spirituality, God, Mother Earth, whatever they want to call their higher power, they can just kind of connect in their energy, connect in there to attract the one that they want. And I 100% agree with you that there is a lid for every pot. And I have felt so fortunate in my work as a matchmaker to be able to connect some of those lids and pots. And the greatest joy that I have is seeing their children on Facebook, and also even like some of the older folks that I've introduced, to see how they interact with their spouse or their partner's grandchildren. Like some of those, like really, there's intergenerational connections and matches that take place is really some of my greatest joy as a matchmaker. Well, it's awesome.
And I will say this, what the work that you are doing, Laurie, is so important, and I admire so much what you do, especially in this world today where it's harder. I think it's harder than ever to find those connections and it's just a different world than it was 20, 25, 30, 40 years ago. What you're doing has such a positive impact on people's lives. I don't know that there could be more important work than what you are doing, in that you are bringing people together. They're finding themselves, and they're finding that person who's right for them. And I do believe we are better in this world. Most of us are, or a lot of us are. I can't make a just overall statement, but we're better because of the person we're with. I know I am a better person because of Jackie, and she brings that out in me. And I love that she does that. And so I like to think, because if I'm a better person, then I can do more for others. And what you do is you're helping people be at their best, because they want to be their best with these other people here. I mean, what more can we do in this world that if we're making a positive difference in this world? And that's, so I appreciate what you're doing very much, and all. And I've learned a lot from you over these years.
Thanks, John. And we're going to wrap up, but I hope that this podcast helps someone out there just to know to keep looking if they're searching for love, And if they're feeling struggles in their relationship, that you can get to the other side of that. You just need to sit down and have that deep conflict conversation and know in your heart that to perhaps let go of the fear of abandonment.
Yes.
And get through some of those conversations so that you can let that go. And if you need to see a therapist over that, a marriage therapist or an individual therapist to kind of get through those feelings, that is often the reason why people aren't really connecting and having those conflict conversations. They're afraid they're going to be abandoned. So this was awesome, John.
Well,
wow,
I appreciate.
Thank you.
I just think that having a great relationship, there's nothing any more satisfying or whatever. And I'm just very fortunate. And I think this though, Laurie, sometimes I think you find love unexpectedly, and what can be better than that? It hits you, and sometimes we try too hard maybe. And what you do though is help people. I think some people out there trying too hard at it. You take it from a different viewpoint. And I think that's what makes it better, is that you're helping people find it in a way that they aren't so, driven. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but that's just the thing. I am so fortunate that I found Jackie, and who I didn't know that it was going to be so good and that it was going to work out so well, but it just came along that way. And boy, when it hits you big time. And I'm just blessed and as fortunate can be. But I hope you continue to do what you're doing for a long, long time, because it makes a difference in this world. It really does.
Well, I'm not going anywhere.
I hope not.
Oh, and John, thank you so much. It was really delightful to be with you, and I look forward to future conversations. Thanks for listening to Love on the Go. I hope you join us on our next episode. You can make sure to know when it is by following us wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed it, it'd be great if you left us a review. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, to learn more about me and how my team can help you, visit carolinasmatchmaker.com. Until next time.